Hello everyone, my name is Kumar and welcome back to our channel Kumar Programming. From Angular Interview Question Answer Series, today we are going to learn about what is Signal and why we use Signal. Signal is the brand new feature from Angular 16 onwards, and Signal was released in Angular 16, but that was for only development purpose. And after that, in Angular 17, Signal was released for production use. And nowadays, most of the MNC companies have started using Signals. And also, this is being asked very frequently in the interviews. So if you are an Angular developer, you must be knowing about Signal. So now let's start. So first of all, let's understand what Signal is. Signal is a reactive value. What does it mean by reactive value? Reactive value means any value which is changed at one place and getting reflected throughout the application wherever it's being used. Okay. So signal is a reactive value that track changes and automatically update any dependent views. It helps to manage state and data flow within an application and ensuring that updates propagates efficiently and consistently throughout the application, right? Let's understand by the diagram. So here if you see, I have one application. In one application, I'm using three components, component 1, component 2, component 3. And suppose that here in component 1, I have a variable as a price and I'm assigning value as a $2. Okay. And I want to share this variable to other components. So if you remember that earlier, if you want to share any variable to the other components, we were using input and output decorator, at the rate input and at the rate output decorator. At the rate input decorator, we were using once we want to share the data from parent to child, and output decorator that we were using once we want to share the data from child to parent, right? And also if we want to share information to the multiple components, we were using RxJS library, right? And from there we were using subject and we were using also observables. Then those observables we were trying to subscribe in our ng on init, and we were unsubscribing on our ng destroy, right? So we were using on init and also we were using on destroy, right? So these were the life cycle hooks that we were using. And also, so we were subscribing our observable on ng on init and we were unsubscribing our observables on ng on destroy. And once we were using our RxJS library, the whole process was quite complex and we were facing a lot of issues with the memory leakage if you are not unsubscribing properly, right? So that was the issue. And after introducing signal, all those things gone, right? And now we just have to create a variable as price and wrap the value inside signal. Okay, that's it. Now once we are using this signal, then we can easily, this price variable can be shared with all the components in our application. And also if we change the price value from $2 to $4 and we are using this price variable inside component and component 3, then immediately this change value will be propagated to component and component 3 efficiently and consistently. And it also improves performance as well a lot. Now let's see how it improves the performance. So earlier, if you remember that before Angular 16, the change detection was being called by zone.js, right? So whenever any changes happen in our Angular component, the zone.js was getting called. And the change detection mechanism was knowing that something has been changed inside the component, right? But it was not knowing that which component is having the change and what changes they have. And after that, our Angular change detection were getting called, and further this change detection was trying to check entire component tree for the change. So might we are using here component 1 and after that we are using some other components. So it was trying to check the entire component tree for the changes, right? And here it was taking a lot of time. And after that, once the change detection mechanism was finding the changes, it was updating the view for whatever the value was changed. That was happening before with the zone.js. But now after 16, once signal got released, then if any changes happen at the component level, then signal system is knowing that what has been changed, right? And then after that, our Angular change detection is getting called and it's updating the view, anything that has been changed, right? So here our Angular is not going to find out the change throughout the component. In signal, it knows that what component is having the change and where we have to do the changes. So definitely Signal is the winner in the term of performance, in the term of simplicity, and in term of consistency. So that's the reason most of the companies are now migrating from RxJS to Signals, wherever they were storing that state inside the application. So I hope that this is getting clear to you now. At least you would be able to understand that what is Signal and why we use Signal, right? Now let's quickly see that how we can initialize our signal, how we can set the value inside the signal, and how we can update the signal, right? So first of all, if you see here, I'm having a variable as a price and wrapping the value 10 inside a signal. So in this way, we can initiate our signal, right? So my signal is initiated as a price, and also I have another signal which variable is discount, and the value I have wrapped as a 5 inside signal, right? So it's very simple. And the second method which we have, if we want to update this value, right? We have initialized this signal with the value 10. Now we want to update this value. So we have a set method, okay? And just call this set method and used whatever value you want to assign for this price variable. Okay, and there is another method which is update. So most of the time interviewer asks like what is the difference between set and update method from signal. So set method doesn't care what is the previous value was there, right? Here it's just setting the value 20. It don't care what was the value earlier. Okay, but in case of update, it return the previous value. So here if you see, callback function is getting called inside that, and it's returning a value, previous value. On the basis of previous value, we are adding some value, and that value is going to be assigned inside the price signal. Okay, so it's quite simple, isn't it? Now let's see the next method, which is computed. And suppose that if you want to have any variable which is dependent on price and discount, right? So we have a method as a computed, and inside the computed method, we are just calling our fat arrow function, and inside that fat arrow function, we are using this price signal and discount signal, and we are calculating the value for final price, right? So we have computed method, and this computed method is always return a signal. Okay, so this final price is also as a signal. And if you see here, whenever we are trying to access the value of a signal, here we are using bracket, right? Like a method, right? Because internally it's calling a get method to get the data from the signal. Now there is another method which we have effect, right? So whenever we are updating this value for any signal, then there would be a side effect, right? So if you want to execute any side effect, we just have to use our effect method. We can call this effect method inside our constructor, and whenever the signal value will be changed, our effect method will be called. So that's all we have in our signal. And if you can just remember that in order to initialize signal, we just trap the value inside a signal, and if you want to set the value for a signal, we can just use the set method. And if you want to update the value from its existing value, we can just use the signal update method. And if you want to do some calculation on the basis of existing signal, we use the computed method. And if you want to perform any side effect on change of any signal value, then we use the effect method, right? That's all we have in signal. And now we will do all those things in our practical demonstration, then it will be more clear. Now let's flip to the Visual Studio. Now here I have opened my command prompt, and in command prompt, as of now, currently I'm using Angular 18. So let me show you the version of Angular 18, ng hyphen hyphen version. This will give you the version of Angular. So as of now, I'm using version 18. Now if I run the command ng version, I'm not giving hyphen hyphen, then it will give the details of the Angular version as well as its packages. So here you can see I'm using Angular CLI 18.0.2 and Node version 20 and package manager version 10. Okay, and here we are having all the required package for the Angulars. Clear? Now let me create a brand new application for Angular, make it clear, and we know the command, right? ng new ng hyphen 18 Angular 18 signal. Okay, so now it's going to create a brand new application for Angular in version 18. Okay, so here it's asking for style sheet, so I'll choose for CSS for now, and it's asking to, do you want to enable server side rendering? I'll make another video for server side rendering in Angular, but here I'll choose no, because we are just focusing on signal. Now it's going to create a brand new application. It may take some time, depends upon your system configuration. So here my brand new application is created. Now let me open this application in Visual Studio Code. So here I'll go to that directory cd Angular 18. Okay. Now I'm inside my directory and here I'll just type code. Okay. Code and after space and after that dot. And now it will open a Visual Studio for that particular project. Now it's open my Visual Studio. Yes, I trust the author and let me make it bigger. I hope this is visible, right? Now let's open our source folder. Here in source folder we have application app, and now in app folder I'm choosing my app component.html file, right? And here I'll remove most of the unwanted things. I'll keep style for now, content left side I'll keep the image, and here I'll put signal, right? And from the right side I'll remove everything, and this is not needed at all. Now let's run this application and see. I'll open my terminal by using Ctrl J command, and here I'll run ng serve-o, right, which is going to open in the browser. Yes, so now it's global setting enabled. It's building now. Now let's open this. Yeah, right. So now here you can see my Angular 18 application is running. Now what I'll do here in our app component.ts file, here simply I'll create a variable price and I'll assign the value signal. Okay, and I'll assign the value 20, right? And signal should be imported from core. Okay, so now let's quick fix this and import it from core. So now you can see here my signal is imported from Angular core. So here I have initialized my signal, and I'll take another variable here as a discount, and I'll create another signal, and I'll wrap the value inside signal as 5. Okay, now I'll take another variable as a final price equal to, now here I'm going to use my computed method because this final price is dependent on price and discount, right? So here I'll use computed, and this computed also imported from Angular core. Now inside this computed method I'll just use my fat arrow function, and inside this fat arrow function I'll return this dot price, right? We want to deduct this discount from price, right? So this dot price minus, and then we will deduct 5% of price, right? Because we have discount 5%. So this dot price into this dot discount divided by 10. Okay. So if you see here, once I'm trying to access these variables, signal variables, it's giving me error. Why? Because we cannot directly get the value of signal. In order to get the value from signal, we must have to use this bracket. Okay. So always signal variable is using this bracket. Now we are good, right? So whenever we want to access the value of any signal variable, we must have to use this bracket like a method. And this computed method is going to return a signal. So this final price is a signal. Okay. Now let's use these variables inside our app component.html file. And here at the right side, what I'll do, create h3 price, and in a similar way, banana bracket, right? We will use our price. Since price is a signal, so we will use bracket, right? Now I'll use for discount, and here I use discount signal value. Okay. And then here we have final price, right? Final underscore price. That's it. Now let's see in our, see here, now we are getting our price value as a 20, discount we have 5, and final price we have 19. So let's have it as a 5%. Okay, it would be more clear. Now let me open my browser side by side. Yeah, you can see here we are having our price 20 and discount 5% for price 20, and final price we are having 19. Now we want to update the signal value. Okay, so now let's see how we can update that. So I'll open my app component.ts file, and here I'll create a method as a set price, and inside this method I'll use this dot price, and we know that there is a method set method, right? So this dot price, this is a signal dot set method, and set method is going to set the value inside this price. So what I'll do here, I'll just put 10. Okay, so here I have set my price value as a 10. Okay, and this set method from this signal doesn't care that what the value was there earlier. And we have another method as a update. So I'll create another method, update price, and inside this method, let me make it bigger. And inside this method, I'll use this dot price, and we know that we have a method for a signal as a update method, right? And we are going to use this update method, and here I'll use my fat arrow function, and inside that fat arrow function we will return value, right? So this value is returning the current value we have 20, right? So this value is returning the current value. So here what we will do, we will return value plus 10. That's it. And now let's format this code, control A, control K, F, right? So now it's formatted. Now in our HTML file, we will call these functions, okay? So how we can do that? Let's go back to our HTML file, and here I'll create button, and I'll use set price, and on click function, you know that, right? In Angular we are using click, and here I'll use my set price function. And similarly, I'll create another button where I'm going to update price, and here I'll use update price, right? Now let's minimize and see. Yeah, see here we have a set price and update price method. Let's have a space here, percent NBSPN. We have a code NBSP, right, to give an space. So now we are having space here. Good. So see here in set price method, we are just updating our signal value as 10. So let me call this, click on set price. So see now my price is updated as 10, and discount 5% on 10 price is 9.5. So you can see once I'm updating my price here, it's immediately updating the final price as well. Okay, so I don't have to take care of this final price, and this final price is getting calculated automatically. And if I update price, then what will happen, this existing value 10, and we are adding 10 more, right? So it's going to be 20. See, now it's being updated as a 20, and the final price we have 19. And let me update one more time. Now we have price 13, and final price we have updated as a 28.5. And if you are going to again set price, so it's not going to take care that what the value was earlier. So now we have value 30, but it doesn't care. If I just press set price, then it's going to set the price as 10. Okay, I hope everything is clear so far. And now if you want to perform any action in case of any signal value change, so how we can do that? We know that, right? We have effect. So inside our constructor, we can call our effect. And if you see, effect is also being imported from our Angular core. And inside this, we are going to call a fat arrow function. And inside this effect, we will just log our price value. Okay, so here console.log, and here I'll use my price value have been changed. And the new price value is dollar curly bracket, and we will use our this dot price, right? Now see, I'll open my console log here. Now let's refresh it first. See here, initially I have my value 10. As soon as I'm changing my price value, I'm seeing here price value have been changed 10, right? Now update price. See, my price value updated as a 20. So here we have our price value have been changed as a 20. Now update once again. Now we have our price value 30. So whenever our price value is getting changed, the effect is going to be called here. Okay. So you can perform any action whatever you want after changing value inside our signal. So far we have learned how we can initialize our signal, and how we can update our signal, and how we can compute our signals, and how we can perform any side effect once signal value is changed. Now further we will see how we can share the signal value from one component to another component. So what I'll do here, I'll create a component as a user view component, user view, and also I'll create another component as a user edit component, right? And I'll create a user service, and I'll create a signal for the user data inside our user service, and then I'll share that user data to the user view as well as user edit component by using our user service. Now let's do that. So here I'll create a user component. I'll open another terminal here, ng generate component view user. Okay, now this command is going to generate a new user component as a view user. Command is ng generate, c is the short form of component and view user. And similarly, I'll create another component as a edit user. Right now here you can see my view user component is created, and also my edit user component is also created. Right now I'll create a service as a user service, ng generate service user. Okay, and now it's going to create a user service. See, now my user service is created. Okay, so here in my service, I'll create a interface export. Since we are using TypeScript, so we have to use our power of TypeScript. So here export interface iUser. Okay, and inside this iUser, I'll take the three property as a name, type of string, and company. That would be also type of string. And the third property we can take as address, type of string. Okay. Now in my user service class, I'm going to create a variable user signal. Okay, user signal, and the value of user signal will be wrapped inside signal, and this signal will be type of iUser. Okay, and here we'll put the default value for iUser. So I'll put the name, the default value as a blank, and I'll use for company and address, right? And here I'll import my signal from Angular core. So now I have initialized my signal, okay, and the default value I have entered blank for all the fields. Now I'll simply create a get method, get user, and inside this get method I'll return this dot user signal, and this user signal is a signal, so we have to use as a bracket. So simply I'm returning this user signal value by using this get method, and I'll use another method to update this user signal, update user, and I'll pass a new user, right? New user which we want to update the current user, and that would be type of partial. We'll use our TypeScript partial here and iUser. Okay, type of iUser, and inside this function I'll simply this dot user signal dot update method is there to update the value update, and inside that I'll create my fat arrow function since it's going to return the current value, right? We already learned, so it's going to return the current user, and this current user is going to be updated with the new user, right? So what I'll do here, I'll return, I'm using here spread operator, current user. This current user is going to be replaced with new user, right? New user. Now by using this update user method, we will be updating our user data. Now let me create another method for computed signal. I'll create a method as a get user details. Okay, and I'll here return computed, and I'll import this computed from our Angular core, and here inside this I'll use my fat arrow function, and here I'll return inside my fat arrow function return curly bracket and this dot user because user is a signal, right? Here see, user is a signal, user dot name works at, I'll give the company name now here, this dot user dot company, and lives in, I'll give the address, this dot user dot address, right? So this will return the username, work at this company, and live in this address. Okay, so that's all we have for our service. Now we are going to use this service in our user view component. So let's go back to our user view component here inside our user ts component file. Here simply I'll inject my user service. So we know that how we can inject. We are having constructor, and inside this constructor I'm going to inject our service. So here public user service, type of user service, right? So now this is getting injected, and you can see it's being imported from user service. Now I'll use this user service inside my view user component. So let's go back to our view user HTML file, and here I'll create a h3, and inside our h3 tag I'll use here name, and then we know how we can access our data inside our banana bracket. So user service dot user, we know this user is a signal that is returning a signal dot name. That's it. And now similarly we will do for the other fields, and here I'll do for user dot company, right? And here user dot address, company, and here address. Now let's see in the browser. So here you can see I'm getting name, company, address. As of now there is no value is being binding because we have name, company, and address as a blank value defined inside our signal. If you see here our user service, here we have a default value, name as a blank, so I'll give it as a default value as a Kumar, and company as a programming, and here address I'll give as a as United Kingdom. Okay, right? Now let's see in the browser again. See, all the default value is being binded, and that is getting bind from our signal. Now what I'll do, I'll update these values, right? How we can do that? Inside our edit user component.ts file, here I'll inject similarly that we have injected in our view user. So here I'll inject in edit user component as well our user service, and I'll import this user service from our user service, right? And I'll create a variable here as user equal to this dot user service dot user, right? Because this user service dot user returning a user signal, and I'll use this as a spread operator. Okay, so whatever user data will be having, it's going to create a new user object on the basis of user data. Now I'll create another method here, update user, and inside this update user I'm going to call our service this dot user service dot update user, and I'll pass the this dot user, right? Because we are passing this new user, right? So if you remember that in our user service update user method, here we are passing a new user and we are updating the current user with the new user, right? So here this dot user service dot update user and passing the new user value. That's it. Now let's format it. Control A, Control KF. It's formatted. Okay. Now we will in our edit user, I'll create three text boxes from where we will update the user. So here I'll use a div, and inside div I'll create three more div dot mb hyphen 3 multiplied by 3, right? It's going to create a three new div, and inside all div I'll create label for, then we will give id here, and inside the label I'll give the name. Okay, and here I'll give company, and here I'll give address, right? And after this label, so here I'll use input id. Now let's format this. Control A, Control K, F. Okay, and here we will create a button as a update user, right? And on click we are going to call our update user method. Okay, now let's see in the browser, but before that we have to add this component inside our app component, right? What I'll do here, like here we are using app user, and similarly I'll make another section, and here I'll use edit user, and I'll add the reference of this edit user. So once you are adding this reference, if you see here in app component, this view user component and edit user component is getting imported inside our app component, right? Now let's see in our browser. See, now we are seeing here name, company and address. Let me minimize it. Here we are having this tag. Let's see why we are having this. So it should be button, right? Update user. Yep, here it is. Now save it. See in the browser. Yeah. So now what we want to do, once we will update this value from the signal, this needs to be updated inside our view component. Okay. So what we will, so as of now we are using our form. So we know that we have our all the data inside our user, right? And this is our signal. So we can bind this data with our component. So since we are using our template driven form, so here we will use our ng model. We know how we can use it. Ng model, and we are going to bind this data with user dot name, right? Since ng model is not a known property, so form module is not added. Let's add a form module here, forms module. Yeah, now this error has been resolved. Now let's add for all the input field here, and I'll use here user dot company, and here I'll use user dot address. Okay, now whatever the value we are going to update it here, it's going to bind with our this user signal, and user signal is we are going to pass here inside update user, and this update user from the user service is going to update the signal value. Okay, now let's see in action here inside our browser. See, whatever the default value is there already, it's being binded. Now I'll update here value as a Kumar programming, and here I'll update value as a KKY programming, and here I'll update country as a India. Okay, now update it. See, as soon as I updated, my signal value got updated, and the another component which is view user component is being reflected immediately. Now here we will display our computed value as well. So here in our view user component, I'll create a tag as small, and in small tag user service dot get user detail, right? We have created a function get user detail. So this get user detail is using a computed function, and that computed function is returning a signal. So once you're using signal, in order to use that value, we have to use this bracket, right? Now let's see in our browser. See, Kumar work at programming and live in United Kingdom. That is the default value we have. Now we will remove this value. I'll update it as a Kumar programming, and here I will use KKY programming, change address as a India. Okay, now updated. See, I updated my signal here as well as my computed value is being updated. So this is the whole benefit that we have of our signal. As of now, we are not using any RxJS library and we are not using any subject observables, nothing, right? And we don't have to worry about subscribe and unsubscribe the values. And it's very fast. So that's the reason most of the MNC companies are getting migrated their old Angular version to the new Angular version, later on Angular version with 17 or 18. And if you are an Angular developer, then you must be knowing about Signal if you are creating a new project, or either you are migrating an old project to a later version of Angular 16. So that's all we have for now in Signal. And if you have any doubt, please leave me in comment section and definitely I'll try to respond as soon as possible. And now this come to the end of this video. Friend, if you have learned something from this video, then please don't go without subscribing this channel. And also please like, comment and share this video to your friends, your colleagues and to the people who really need it. And don't forget to press the bell icon so you will get the notification of all of my upcoming videos. And that's all for the day. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, take care and keep learning.